Long ago, beyond endless deserts and towering mountains, there stood a magnificent kingdom known throughout the world for its wealth and military strength. Golden domes shimmered beneath the morning sun. Bustling marketplaces echoed with the voices of merchants, and travelers spoke in awe of its mighty ruler. The king's name was King Zaid. He was brave in battle, wise in administration, and feared by neighboring kingdoms. His armies had never lost a war, and his palace overflowed with treasures from every corner of the earth. But despite all his greatness, one dangerous weakness had quietly taken root in his heart: pride. King Zaid slowly began believing that his power came from his own intelligence rather than from Allah. Whenever advisors offered different opinions, he dismissed them. When scholars reminded him to remain humble before Allah, he smiled politely but ignored their words. "My kingdom stands because of my strength," he often declared. The ministers exchanged worried glances, but none dared argue. Only the elderly royal imam would quietly recite the verse, "Indeed, Allah does not like the arrogant." The king would nod respectfully, yet deep inside he believed those warnings were meant for weaker men, not for him. Every year, King Zaid organized a grand royal hunt. Hundreds of soldiers, skilled archers, noblemen, servants, horses, and hunting dogs accompanied him deep into the forests beyond the kingdom. The hunt was more than entertainment. It displayed the king's power. Villagers lined the roads to watch the magnificent procession pass. Children cheered. Trumpets echoed through the valleys. Flags waved proudly in the wind. This year's hunt promised to be greater than ever. Far from the palace, hidden between rolling hills, lived a poor hunter named Yusuf. His small mud house stood beside a narrow stream. He owned almost nothing: a worn bow, a handful of arrows, patched cloak, an old prayer mat. Yet Yusuf possessed something far more valuable than gold: contentment. Each morning before sunrise, he performed ablution with cold water, prayed far, and raised his hands toward the sky. "O Allah, provide for me only what is halal. Keep pride away from my heart, and let me never forget that every blessing belongs to you." Then he entered the forest. He never hunted more than his family needed. If he caught 2 deer, he shared one with widows. If Allah blessed him with abundance, travelers were invited to his humble table. The villagers loved him not because he was rich, but because he feared Allah. One afternoon, Yusuf sat beneath a great oak tree after offering their prayer. As he rested, an elderly traveler approached. His clothes were dusty, his sandals nearly torn apart. He looked exhausted. "My son," the old man said softly, "may I have some water?" Without hesitation, Yusuf handed over his water skin. The stranger drank gratefully. "Do you have any food?" Yusuf smiled. "It belongs to Allah before it belongs to me." He broke his last loaf of bread into 2 equal pieces. They ate together. Afterward, the old traveler looked carefully into Yusuf's eyes. "Tell me, hunter, if Allah offered you the throne of this kingdom, would you accept it?" Yusuf laughed gently. "What would I do with a throne? Would you not enjoy commanding thousands? I already struggle to command myself." The old man smiled. And if the king himself insulted you, I would ask Allah to guide both him and me. And if you became richer than everyone, I would fear becoming poorer before Allah. The traveler lowered his head thoughtfully. You speak like a scholar. Yusuf shook his head. No, I simply remember that every king will one day lie beneath the same earth as every beggar. The old man's eyes filled with tears. He quietly whispered, Alhamdulillah. Before leaving, he prayed, May Allah raise your honor in ways you cannot imagine. Yusuf never learned the stranger's name. The following morning, King Zayd's royal hunting caravan entered the forest. Hundreds of riders spread through the trees. The king spotted an enormous white stag unlike anything he had ever seen. Its antlers stretched like branches. Its coat shone brilliantly beneath the sunlight. A magnificent prize, shouted the king, without waiting for his guards. He spurred his horse forward. The stag disappeared between towering trees. The king followed, faster, deeper, farther, soon. The sounds of soldiers faded, no trumpets, no horses, no guards. Only silence. The king finally stopped. He looked around. Every direction appeared the same. The forest had swallowed him whole. Hours passed. The scorching sun sank lower. His horse became exhausted. His water bag emptied. Hunger tightened his stomach. Night slowly approached. For the first time in many years, King Zayd felt afraid that he shouted, Is anyone there? Only echoes answered. The proud ruler who commanded thousands could not even find his own path. Dark clouds gathered overhead, cold winds swept through the forest, rain began falling. The king searched desperately for shelter. Lightning illuminated ancient trees. Then, far away, he noticed a faint glow at a small fire. Hope returned as he guided his tired horse toward the light. There, beside a modest wooden shelter, stood a man cooking simple stew over a fire. It was Yusuf. The hunter looked up and immediately recognized the royal clothing. He bowed respectfully. Peace be upon you. The king, exhausted and soaked, replied, And upon you be peace. I have lost my way. Without asking another question, Yusuf invited him inside. The shelter was tiny, a straw mat, 2 clay bowls, 1 blanket. Nothing more. Yet it felt warmer than the king's enormous palace. Yusuf served the king the only meal he had prepared. The king noticed the hunter eating nothing. Aren't you hungry? Yusuf smiled. A guest eats first. But what about you? Allah will provide. The king stared silently. No one had ever sacrificed their own meal for him without expecting a reward. Not ministers. Not merchants. Not generals. Only this poor hunter. After dinner, rain continued pounding the roof. The king looked around. You live here alone. My wife and children live in the village. You could become wealthy if you hunted more. I already have enough. What if tomorrow you caught nothing? I trust Allah. What if your roof collapsed? I trust Allah. What if thieves stole everything? Yusuf smiled peacefully. They cannot steal what matters most. The king frowned. And what is that? My faith. Silence filled the room. Outside, thunder shook the forest. Inside, Another storm had quietly begun. One inside the king's heart. For the first time in years, someone possessed something he did not: peace.